Welcome back to Grief Inspired. Today, I am very, very excited to share with you a conversation that I had with who I consider to be a very dear friend. Her name is Jan Gibson. I met her after she lost her husband of 44 years, and I was blessed and honored to walk her grief journey with her over the last year or so. And she is here to talk about why losing a spouse hurts so much. She's going to share her story of Joe, her experience through the grief process, and give you tips on what she thinks can help you if you have lost a spouse of your own. And before I go, I want to encourage you to please like and subscribe to this channel. I am working very hard to get the conversation out, to talk to people about the grief process and to help them along the way. This is a process that we should not do alone, that there are things that can help us, and I am doing my best to get the word out to all of you. So please hit that like button, please subscribe, please share this conversation with friends or family or someone else you know who is experiencing a loss. You just don't know the impact that you can make on someone else's life. So let's jump into the conversation. And today I'm going to introduce you to my friend, Jan Gibson. Hi, and welcome back to Grief Inspired. My name is Catherine McNulty, and I have a very special guest to bring to you today. Her name is Jan Gibson. Jan, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Good morning.
I am so glad that you agreed to do this. So we're gonna tell everybody today about why losing a spouse hurts so much. And I invited you on because I know that you know, and so many of my viewers want to be able to hear firsthand what it's like to lose a spouse, what it's like to go through the grief process, and then what it's like to feel like you're moving toward healing and you're to the point where you can really feel like you're getting back to living again. So
Yes.
thank you so much for being here.
Oh,
So
I'm glad to be here to help. I'm glad
yes.
it helps me to share.
Yeah, and so tell everybody how we met. How did you find me?
Well, I would say it must have been the first year after Joe died. I don't remember anything. I had to look back at pictures from Christmas and Easter and find out where I was. And I think it was after the first anniversary. I found a few widow websites and I started watching the videos and the podcasts, and then yours just kept like, I like these, and they just were so heartfelt. You came across as really caring, and this was like your passion. You had a lot of information just in your videos. And then I decided that in spring, or it was February last year, that it was time for me to invest in myself. That I've always been a caretaker and helping other people. And it was my turn now. And naturally, my oldest son was, "Mom, are you really sure about this? She's not taking you for your money. We're going to have a phone conversation, and it's not like you just send your money and hope for the best. We're going to talk about what the course is like." And so that's how I met you. Got in contact through your Gmail. We set up a time to talk, and I asked, what was the course like? What were you going to cover? And I said, yes, sign me up.
I'm so glad that you decided to invest and choose yourself. Well, tell our audience about Joe. Tell us what happened, because first, you are a mother of 3. You were married for 44 years. You have 4 grandchildren.
Correct.
So tell us about Joe.
I just thought of this the other day. I met Joe in 1976. He came to work where I was working here on the East Coast. He came from San Diego because his father had died, and he was coming east to live with his mother and take care of her. And he happened to apply for a job where I'm working at. That January, he asked me out. He said, "You make me feel like dancing. Do you want to go out?" June in 1977, he proposed to me in the parking lot of his apartment. And he said, "I want to be married before my 30th birthday," which is November 24th.
Okay.
So we decided to get married November 12th. That
Wow.
fall. So we had only been going out, January to November. And it was just predetermined, I think, that we were going to meet each other.
Yes, I've always been blown away by the level of your relationship and the quality that clearly, I mean, I never got to meet Joe, right? Because we met after he passed away, but it was very clear in all of our conversations how close you guys were.
He's the one that pulled my emotions out. I was always kept things inside. And he would take me by the shoulders and go, "Talk to me. What's wrong? Talk to me." And he was just so compassionate with the boys. Everything was about the boys. He worked on the house. He worked 2 jobs for us so I could stay home with the boys. It was a pretty tight money situation, but we did what we had to do because I didn't want to go to work to pay for a caregiver,
Right.
And yeah, his family was first.
I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah.
So then you cared for him for quite a while as he got sick, correct?
Yes, and it all started going downhill in 1993. My father passed away. First day of my first job, I got the phone call. I had to get over to the nursing home. And then I'm thinking it was 2 years later, he was diagnosed with low pressure headaches. They couldn't figure out where the spinal fluid was leaking from his brain, so they ended up putting him on all kinds of pain medication, loads of doctor's appointments that I do not, that's another fog. I don't know how I did all that, getting him to doctor's appointments in Philadelphia that's like an hour away.
How old was he at the time?
52.
Yeah. Okay. Right? So young.
So yeah, he was young.
How long did you take care of him?
Well, that lasted, we had a rough time for about a year and a half that he was, depression set in, mental care facility, but that finally got better in, I guess, about a year and a half, 2 years later, 1997, 98. And then we had a calm period there where, the boys were becoming teenagers. College was coming up for the kids. And then my mom died in 2003. That was not good. And I had to call my son. He was in New Zealand studying for a year. I had to call him and tell him that his grandmother died. Now getting the boys packed off to college and all that nonsense. We did that. In 2018, Joe went to urgent care because he was having pain in his chest, a cold, turned out to be pneumonia. And the next day we got a call that said, "You might want to go see a cardiologist, that we detected some heart failure." And that's when that started, with going to a cardiologist, getting the right medication. And then 2000, I'm getting my years all mixed, 2018, 19, he was diagnosed with COPD. Naturally, that progressed. And because he wasn't moving as much, the heart failure was getting worse.
Okay.
And then COVID hit, got rid of the doctor's appointments, going in physically. And
Which had to
I
be a little
decided,
bit scary, right?
oh
Because
yeah, I mean, I was working at home then. I was a paraprofessional in school, so I was working remotely with students. But it was like I decided to retire, and then from June, December, it was just me and Joe. I mean, I went out to the store, but it was like in and out because I was like, and then come home and disinfect myself because I mean that would have been a disaster if he got COVID.
right.
And by but he was talking to the his respiratory doctor, and that was when he started going downhill slowly. You know, he was had to up the oxygen on the machine. Um, he wasn't moving around as much in the house. He was stuck on the couch in the living room.
In a situation where it was basically just you and
It
you
was me.
taking care of him and basically your entire, existence really
Yeah,
on
it
your
was
own.
no, it was raising kids, taking care of Joe, taking care of the kids again, taking care of Joe, and then it was all Joe.
Right.
And we weren't that social as a couple. We didn't go out, with groups of other couples. So it was very isolating. And yeah, that we were keeping up. It was more, we could tell it was the COPD that was going because his oxygen levels, they was having a hard time keeping them up. And then July 4th, we had a small get together here with family. And Joe had a pretty bad episode of not being able to catch his breath. But I knelt down with him and I breathed him through it to get him, calm down. We can do this.
Right.
And then the next morning, July 5th, I woke up and heard Joe calling to me like, Jan, I can't breathe. And so I just came down and brought the other oxygen tank out. And so he could have a double dose of oxygen. Wasn't getting any better. And I just said, I got to call, I'm calling 911. He was in the hospital Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Wednesday afternoon, they whisked him off to a scan. I was like, had just gotten there from lunch. And I said, I just waved to him. I said, I'll see you tomorrow. And then I got the call. There you go. January 8th at 2:15 in the morning that we want to intubate your husband. He says to ask you what you want. And I heard Joe in the background saying, just 2 days, just 2 days. Okay. And I said, if that's what he wants, do it.
Right.
And then I got a call like at 2:30. We tried, his heart stopped 3 times. And you better get in here.
I just I have goosebumps as you're saying this, right? Because
it just all came back just as I was saying. I was going to say I can talk about it more now, but no.
Well, no, but it's still
up.
Every time you talk about it, it's like taking you back to that same
it is
moment.
Yeah.
And he was worried about you.
Yeah.
Right.
I know.
And
really.
You were worried about him, of course, but it's just it's beautiful. It really, really is.
He was always thinking of other people. He
and so was that the day he passed?
Yes. I think he was gone when I got to the hospital because his heartbeat was like at 40.
Okay.
And after a while, I realized that's the pacemaker.
Okay.
Because the nurse came in and said, well, we're going to demagnetize the pacemaker. And then that's when they pronounced him dead.
Okay.
So he was gone when I got there. Yeah, that was tough.
And that's where the pain starts.
Now it was like right here.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get away from it.
And then you said the whole first year was a bit of a blur, which I think a lot of
Yeah.
us can relate to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. Yeah, literally, like, where did I go for Christmas? Well, let me look back at the pictures. Oh, I went up to Ben's house. Where did I go for Easter? Oh, I
Right. You
went
have to,
to
yeah, we have to
sister's
look
house.
at the pictures. No, it makes
Yeah,
complete sense.
yeah, yeah, a whole
Mhm.
year gone.
What was it that sort of made you start sort of looking on the internet? You said how you found me. Like, what was it what was it that changed for you to make you start looking?
I think it was starting to clear up that I didn't know what to do. Tearing up at everything I looked at in the house, looking at pictures, and it was like I need help of some sort, some kind of guidance, I guess it was, somebody to talk to, because I'm the youngest in my family, and I'm the first one, excuse me, that lost a spouse.
Okay.
So
So you didn't really have other people to go to and say, how do I do this?
Right, I didn't. I went to a grief share. I started going to a grief share, and the people there, it seemed like I was the only one asking questions or willing to share things. And I just kept going because, well, I'm getting out of the house and I'm being around people.
Right.
That wasn't enough. I needed something else, more. Our family's all about learning about everything. If you can figure out something I'm always looking up stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was all about finding out what the heck is going on with my head. I have no control over anything in my head. And yeah, that's when I decided I got to July 8th. Okay. Yeah, 2021.
And then there was like a year.
Yep.
It was like empty.
Yep.
And is that when you then found me and started the course? Was it? Yeah, it would have been.
Yeah, the course started I contacted you in February. You hooked me up with another person to talk to. And I think the course started in March.
Yeah, so that was about a year ago.
Yes.
A year ago.
I got the book. I have a composition book of everything I wrote. Right. It's like a little course book.
Perfect.
And I was looking at that this morning, like figuring, because I was like, do I have my dates right? Like just last year I took the course and I was so lost. And now I'm not as lost. I mean, there's days. Sure. But they're not as overwhelming as they were.
Right. So how has the grief experience over this last year been for you, right? Because I think that's something that I love, when you've shared in the Facebook group that we're in, the grief inspired Facebook group, you say it's not easy, right? It's not like there's some magical pill, like suddenly, you jump in a course or you read a book or you go to grief share or whatever, and you're, magically cured.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's so during the course, that was like the key thing I needed, because I was talking to other people and learning about what was going on and things I could put into practice, which I found out really helped, because being a caregiver for so many years, I never took care of myself. And that was a big eye opener that you explained. You got to take care of yourself. You can't get better. I love
that because that's such an important point, right? For everybody who's listening, a lot of us tend to take care of everybody else first, right? Like those of you who
especially mothers.
Yeah, exactly. We're typically mothers. We've got people in our lives we take care of, and it's not because we're necessarily neglecting ourselves, but it's just we put other people first. And what that does sometimes is it puts us last.
Yeah, we're on the back burner.
Yeah, and the grief process really, one of the things I encourage is to give yourself permission, right? Permission to take care of yourself and to give yourself the healing that you deserve, because that ultimately And I can see it happening in your life already, that it's starting to affect the people around you in a positive way because you have been doing the work and you have been healing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah.
There's no getting around it. It's not easy, but I'm beginning to do things that I've never done before.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm holding myself back because I tend to, if I want to do something, I dive into it. And it's like, no, let's just try one thing, see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
And I did one thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then I tried another thing, going to I joined the senior center. That was a big thing. And then I saw they had a free swim at the YMCA on an afternoon. So I went over to that. And the receptionist started talking to me. And she goes, well, would you be interested in a membership? And I said, well, if you have silver. And then she said, if you have silver sneakers, it's free. I was like, I have silver sneakers.
There you go. Life really changed very dramatically when Joe passed away, because up until that point, you were primarily alone, taking care of him, right? It was just the two of you together. Your all of your time was consumed with like worrying about him and taking care of him. And then once he was gone, there's this big void.
Well,
and it's just about you.
Yeah, it's like, well, now what do I do? I kept busy around. I was afraid to sit down and do nothing. I think I just kept doing this and that, and then the self-care kicked in. Like, stop, just sit down, listen to some music. I'd say read a book, but that hasn't happened quite yet.
It takes a lot of focus. Yeah.
I'm trying that, but I have other things. I puzzle. I got introduced to a new craft by somebody I met in your course, so that was wonderful. And so it's like opened my world up to other things I can do for myself.
Yeah, and you really had to embrace things that were new, because one of my most popular videos is about coming home to an empty house, right? That when you right. So how did you, I'm sure other people want to know, how did you handle that? Because it's something that's so challenging.
Well, the first time it happened, I came in and just sat on the couch and cried my head off. And that was pretty bad. And now, when I go to my grandkids' activities, I see all these couples leaving the activities, and here I go off to the car by myself. No problem, but it's not as bad. I can come into the house now, and I don't know what switched it for me, but I still feel it. But it wasn't, I don't think I did anything specific to help. It just became the norm, a new norm.
Right.
I think, like, I was so used to coming home with Joe here, and then all of a sudden he wasn't. And that was like a total, what's the word I want?
It must have felt really foreign. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like, nobody's here except me. And that's something, and I think I mentioned that to you in one of our meetings, that I've never lived by myself.
Yes.
And this is the first time I've lived by myself. And I think that initially is the big shock, that it's just me here. And so that carried over to coming home by myself. And it's just, you just get used to it, a new norm, a new normal.
So looking back on the year, right, you've been through a lot of change and things.
Yes.
You live alone now, you go places alone, you are going and doing lots of things, which I think is fantastic. Like, I'm so excited that you're out and about and doing things. But it's a lot of change, and that change can be really difficult. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the reasons why you've been as successful as you have is because you knew you didn't want to do it. I kind of encouraged
Right.
you to do it. And then it was like, hey, this isn't quite so bad in terms of, I actually do enjoy these things now.
Right. Yeah, it was the initial getting out there that, but then when I realized, nobody ate me. I made it home safe. I enjoyed it, and I know I can do it now. And I enjoy being here at home by myself, but I need to get out with around other people too. I started taking yoga at the library, and one of my friends I knew years ago was there. And so I'm thinking of calling her and see if she wants to do this class at a senior center, because she's a member of it too.
Okay.
So that's my next adventure, I guess you could call
No,
it.
that's fantastic.
Is reaching out, because you always said people aren't going to come to help you. You got to help yourself. And I'm embracing that a little at a time. Yeah, it's all a process. It's like one step at a time.
So yeah, no, I love it. I mean, because you're doing it, right? So you're still in it, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're doing it.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who might be listening to this who recently lost their spouse and is maybe in that first year, that fog, that numbness, not really sure what to do, and maybe they came and this is the video that they found. What advice would you give them?
That this is such an incredibly exhausting journey. Um, don't be afraid that you don't have any control, because it'll come. Just let the tears flow, because that's letting some of your sorrow out. Try and share with people. That was the biggest thing. I think I had joined your Facebook group early. I don't know. That first year, but I started talking to my sister more. I mean, like, she's a year and a week older than me. We're like, and we call and text each other at least once a week, and so that has. I think she's been reading up on grief too, because she's like very supportive and saying the right things to me. And even my middle son, he lives in Georgia. He calls me religiously every Wednesday. It's like, oh, Josh is calling.
Right.
And we talked for like 2 hours, just with this last windstorm we had, that I was so glad that Joe was not here. Joe is not here because the power had gone out, and I would have been frantically trying to get the generator started so he could get his oxygen. And I told him I felt guilty, but that had happened before. And I realized that that was okay. In first year, there's all kinds of things you feel guilty about, like, I should have done this. Well, why didn't I do that? Self-doubt that you were really doing the right thing. If it was a long-term care thing, or it was, that kind of, a sudden death, that's a whole different ballgame. Every grief is different, and mine was just long-term illness care, and the guilt was there that why didn't I react sooner? Get them to the doctor sooner.
I think that with anyone who spends any amount of time as a caregiver, right? There's a special place in my heart for people who do that, because it's a difficult thing to do. And
it is.
But it's also something that you feel like, well, there's no choice. It's not like you say, like, should I keep doing this or not? But you do. But then our hearts are so big that there's so much that we can feel guilty about, that we can say, I wish I had done. And I think that what I tried to teach in the course, right, is we want to normalize that, because I think it's not, even though a lot of our feelings and our emotions, we think that we are the only ones that have them. Many of them are quite normal and expected. And it's always the nicest people, right? Who are the ones who really gave a lot, who tend to be the ones that feel most guilty.
But looking through that composition book, I came to the guilt page, whole page of what I felt guilty about. Amazing. And yeah. And first year grief is just be kind to yourself. You have to give yourself grace for not feeling like making dinner. You don't feel like cleaning anything or doing anything. You just want to sit. I would sit for hours at the kitchen table, looking out at the bird feeders. I still do it. I sit there with my coffee in the morning, and I just get mesmerized by the birds. And
well, I think the introspection and like taking time, like you don't have to be busy all the time. You don't have to do, and I know sometimes we'll want to do that. We'll want to be busy to kind of, calm our thoughts. But I think there's also, a balance to it, and taking the time to really be introspective and to reflect on everything that you've been through and the things that you want moving forward. And what's it going to be like?
That first year after he died, I realized about 6 or 7 months in that I hadn't been into the living room. I went from the kitchen into the den, the TV room. Okay. I would look in the living room, but I wouldn't go in there.
And do you know why that is?
Well, that was his space. And brought back too many memories.
Right. Do you still not go in there?
No, I go in. Yeah, I go in there now. Yeah. Okay. And I had pillows made out of his ties that I had put out on the couch. And I looked at him. I said, "No, you have to go away." So they finally came out, and they're on the couch now. I can sit with them now.
I did not know that. So congratulations with that, because that was a big deal, because every one of those ties reminded you of a moment, of a wedding, of an event, of all the different things. And that's why I think, it makes sense that it was completely hard.
Yep, it was. That was I was surprised that I reacted like that. When I first saw him, I said, "Oh, this is really nice. I'll put them out. I can look at them." I put them out. No, go away and come back another day.
Right. But now you can go in and you can sit with them, and when you want the memories, when you want to, and it's okay to be sullen during those times, right?
Oh, yeah. Just the other day, out on the couch, on the one corner is, I don't know what you call it, like a quilted camouflage thing. It's the kind of thing he had in Vietnam. And when he was cold, he would put this around him and hold him. Yeah. Well, that's still out there. I shouldn't say this because I'm going to cry. But I smelled it, and it smells like that. And it's like, really, it's like March 8th, it'll be 32 months, almost over 2.5 years.
And, such an honor, really, to be able to walk with you through your journey, and to continue, because now Jan's helping in the Facebook group. So the Grief Inspired Facebook group, she is one of our moderators now, and really is giving back to a lot of people. And Jan, you may not realize how much you pour into other people, but
it helps me.
You share openly and honestly, and it's, it really is a blessing to everybody who's in that group. So if you guys are not in that group, find me on Facebook, join that group, because we want you there for sure.
Yeah, I share because it helps me, and then I see other people responding like, "Good, you're sharing," and it's like magic. That's all I can say. It's getting your story out there, and you're not alone.
Yeah. So anything before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to tell those who are watching, who are obviously grieving, maybe their own spouse, maybe someone else? What do they need to know?
It'll get better in time. If you're really struggling, I it's going to sound like I'm doing a commercial for you, Catherine, but that was a game changer, going to your course and even just getting on the Facebook group, because you respond to people on that, and it's you're the best. I'm sorry.
That does sound like a commercial. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. But for me, it really came together. I would never have thought I would be this far along. I didn't know what to expect, but you've pushed me to do things that I don't think I would have done if I had not found you. And that's all I got to say.
Yeah, and I think you made, to one last thing, I think it's important to note, like, that you've made connections with a lot of the people that were either obviously in the course, but then, you know, with other people that you continue to connect with.
Yes. Yeah, that's the big thing in the course. I still connect with a couple people from the course, and then somebody else, I don't even remember how I got connected with her, but we message each other, and it's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, give each other a little boost when we need it, and sharing jokes, and
Right, exactly. And I think that there's, you know, even with people that we don't know, right? If we jump into a course with them, or we just share stories of loss, I think that there's an instant bond, right? Because being with somebody else who gets it, right? And who understands,
definitely,
just it's like a weight lifted off of our shoulders, right? Because you know you can share, and you know that they're going to get it, and you don't have to pretend to be okay when you're not okay. Yeah, and I think, like you said before, don't do it alone.
No, there's no way you can do it alone. No way. You got to reach out somewhere. If not with you, you got to find somehow to find somebody, something to get your grief out, because otherwise it's just going to stay in you. You gotta say it. You gotta feel it. You gotta get it out. So when I cry, I know I'm going to feel better in a couple minutes, because I got whatever was bothering me is out.
Well, I love this so much. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, sharing Joe with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm glad I could share my story again, because it makes me feel better.
So many people are going to get so much out of this. So thank you for sharing, and keep doing what you're doing. And if you out there, if you are in the grief process, keep finding somebody to share with. Reach out to me if you want support directly from me. Like I said, jump into our Facebook group. You can talk directly to Jan within the Facebook group there. I'm sure she would love to hear from you. And until we all get to talk again, bye for now.